Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into the world of supercomputers today
Specifically, we're looking at how their value drops so fast.
and what that means for you when you're looking at property taxes.
That's right.
So you guys sent in a fascinating mix of sources,
Yeah.
market reports,
Uh-huh.
tech news articles,
Yep.
and
How
even
about you?
a live auction listing.
A real one.
It really paints this picture of a market
Oh, does.
that is both booming
Definitely.
and super volatile.
Yeah, and that volatility is what really catches people off guard.
Right.
You think you're buying this cutting-edge piece of tech?
For millions of dollars.
Billions.
And then poof,
It's
practically overnight.
almost.
Let's look at these reports.
Okay.
One from Precedence Research
Okay.
projects the global supercomputer market
Uh-huh.
to reach almost $25 billion
Wow.
by 2032.
Okay.
That's up from about $9 billion in 2022.
Big jump.
And then there's another report from 360i Research that predicts the AI supercomputer market alone
Just AI.
to hit over $6 billion by 2030.
So those projections really show just how much demand there is
Absolutely.
for this supercomputing power.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
Right.
You've got AI,
Big data.
big data.
Even stuff like fraud detection happening in real time.
All of that needs serious computing power.
Yeah, and then we came across this auction listing,
Oh, yeah.
and whoa,
Like a doozy.
it's for the Cheyenne supercomputer.
Which, if you remember...
Was installed back in 2016
Yeah.
and was at one point ranked in the top 20 globally.
Top 20
Decommissioned last year
just last year.
and is now up for auction.
Yep.
Starting bid.
$2,500.
Yeah,
What?
I know, right?
I mean,
It's a huge drop for a machine that was,
cutting edge.
super energy efficient.
Just a few years ago.
Crazy.
So what causes this, super fast obsolescence?
Wow.
Is it just that technology moves so quickly?
It's definitely a big factor.
No. The constant push for faster processing speeds.
More cores,
Mm-mm.
better energy efficiency.
It's what was top of the line yesterday.
Look ancient.
Basically.
So is it kind of like the smartphone market?
Totally.
There's always like a new model with a faster processor,
Yep.
a better camera
Yeah.
coming out like every other week.
Right. And it's not just about raw power either. It's
No?
also about specialized capabilities.
Okay.
Like AI,
Yeah.
quantum computing,
Right.
edge computing.
They all need their own architectures
Mm-hmm.
that older supercomputers just weren't built for.
Exactly.
So even if it's
Yeah.
still working,
Totally.
it might just be obsolete.
Because it can't handle the new stuff.
The new demands.
Right.
And then there's maintenance costs.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Components get older.
Yep.
Harder to find.
Uh-huh.
Maintaining these older systems.
It's pricey.
And really hard.
Like trying to find parts
Oh, I know.
for a vintage car.
Nightmare. And I remember Cheyenne actually started having some cooling system failures
Mm-hmm.
towards the end.
Towards the end.
So were those kinds of maintenance issues
Oh, yeah.
part of the reason they shut it down?
They definitely played a role.
I mean,
Those failures get expensive.
to fix.
Right. And then the downtime,
It affects everything.
research, processing tasks, all of it.
So it becomes a question of, is it worth it
Totally.
to keep pouring money
Hmm.
into this aging system?
Or do you just
Cut your losses.
and invest in something new?
Right. So we've got
Okay.
these forces driving obsolescence,
Yep.
rapid technological advancements,
Number one.
demand for specialized capabilities,
Number two.
increasing burden of maintenance.
Number three.
But how does this translate into an argument for property tax appeals?
That's where things get really interesting.
I like where this is going.
We'll start looking at the real world implications.
Okay.
Cheyenne is a perfect example of how quickly these assets
Can depreciate.
Yeah.
So the argument is
Mm-hmm.
that the assessed value
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be based on the original price,
Right.
but on the current market value
Which could be way lower.
because of everything we've talked about.
Exactly. You've got to think of it like any other asset
Yeah.
that depreciates over time.
But much faster.
But way faster.
We'll dig deeper into that
Like the million.
in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
This is definitely a deep dive you won't want to miss.
Not a chance.
Welcome back to our deep dive into supercomputers. We're picking up where we left off.
Looking at how quickly these supercomputers can become obsolete.
Yeah. And why that's so important for property tax assessments.
It's all about understanding the economics
Uh-huh.
of these systems.
Which are totally different
Oh, yeah.
from your typical assets.
They're like night and day.
The Cheyenne supercomputer. It's a
Yeah.
perfect example.
Textbook case.
You know, the one that's practically being given away
Practical.
at auction? Yep. Can you give us some more background on Cheyenne?
Absolutely.
And, like, what happened?
So Cheyenne was installed back in 2016
Okay.
at the NCAR Wyoming Supercomputing Center.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is.
Which is part of the National Center for Atmospheric Research,
NCR.
NCR.
It was an amazing machine
Oh, yeah.
for its time.
What did it have?
A peak performance of 5.34 petaflops,
Okay.
145,152 CPU cores,
Wow.
and a massive 40 petabytes of storage.
That's huge.
It was.
Sounds like Cheyenne was a real workhorse.
Oh, it was.
What kind of research did they use it for?
All sorts of things. Atmospheric science, Earth
Yeah.
system research,
Yeah.
even education,
Really?
according to UCR.
That's
The University Corporation for Atmospheric Research.
right.
Cheyenne delivered over 7 billion core hours,
Oh.
supported over 4,400 users,
Okay.
and contributed to nearly 1,300 National Science Foundation awards.
So it really made a difference
Huge impact.
in advancing scientific knowledge.
It did.
But if it was so powerful,
Yeah.
so productive,
Right.
why was it decommissioned after only a few years?
Well, it was originally supposed to be replaced
Oh.
after 5 years,
Okay.
which is pretty typical.
For supercomputers,
Yeah.
but then COVID hit, right?
And there were all these supply chain problems.
Uh-huh.
So Cheyenne ended up serving for an extra 2 years.
Almost 7 years.
Just under.
It's crazy how quickly
Oh.
technology changes in this field.
It's unbelievable.
What was like the final straw for Cheyenne?
Well, it was getting outdated,
Okay.
but there were also some big maintenance issues.
Like what?
Faulty quick disconnects in the cooling system.
Cooling systems again.
Always the cooling system.
Why are they so important?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
These machines generate so much heat,
Yeah.
all those processors working so hard, it's like a furnace.
So you need to keep them cool
Absolutely.
to prevent them from...
Overheating and failing.
And when the cooling system breaks down
Even a small failure
Yeah.
can have a huge impact.
on the whole system,
Performance, reliability, everything.
and those repairs
Yeah.
are not cheap
Not at all.
or quick.
No.
So I imagine that played a role in the decision to
Decommission.
decommission Cheyenne.
The cost of repairs,
Mm-hmm.
the downtime,
Right.
plus it was already scheduled to be replaced.
Yeah.
It all adds up.
So even a cutting-edge supercomputer
Mm-hmm.
can quickly become a liability.
That's the reality.
And this all goes back
Right.
to property taxes.
Exactly.
You have to make the assessor understand
Uh-huh.
that maintenance isn't just a one-time expense,
It's a constant drain.
ongoing.
So it's increasing.
And then there's
Yeah.
the issue of resale value,
Oh, yeah.
which the Cheyenne auction really shows.
It does.
The auction listing is interesting.
It is.
You can see all the specs,
Uh-huh. All the amazing things it used to do.
but then you see the starting bid.
$2,500?
It's shocking.
I know.
This was a multi-million-dollar machine.
A few years ago.
So what happens when you're in that situation?
Well,
You've invested all this money,
yeah.
and now your supercomputer is losing value.
Rapidly.
What can you do?
That's where things get strategic.
Okay, I like it.
We'll talk about those strategies
Let's
in the
do
next
this.
part of our deep dive.
Can't wait. All right, we're back for the final part
Final part.
of our deep dive into supercomputer economics.
We've talked about how fast these machines can become obsolete
Practically worthless.
in just a few years.
Yeah, and how that can really hit you in the property taxes.
It's a cautionary tale.
But it's also a chance
You
to
learn
understand how to navigate
these complex...
property tax assessments.
Exact.
So let's get practical.
Okay.
How can our listeners use this information
Uh-huh.
to build a case
Yep.
for a property tax appeal?
What are the key arguments?
Yeah, what should they be saying?
Remember, your goal is to convince the assessor.
Okay, that the market value of your supercomputer
Mm-hmm.
is much lower.
Than what they say it is.
Right. And the good news is
What's the good news?
we've got tons of evidence from Cheyenne's story and all the trends we've talked about.
So it's about connecting the dots
Yes.
between the market trends
Uh-huh.
and your specific situation.
Your specific supercomputer.
Okay.
Let's start with depreciation.
Okay.
You've got to emphasize that supercomputers depreciate
Uh-huh.
much faster,
Than regular office equipment.
way faster.
It's not a gradual decline.
Yeah.
It's like a...
A free fall.
Yeah.
Remember the base jump analogy
Yeah.
off a skyscraper?
The Cheyenne auction is a perfect example.
It is.
Here's this top-of-the-line machine.
A few years ago.
Now it's practically being given away.
For pennies.
So evidence point number 1.
Okay.
Use examples like the Cheyenne auction
Yep.
to show how dramatic the depreciation is.
What?
What else?
Maintenance costs.
This is where you really paint the picture
Okay.
of how expensive it is.
To own a supercomputer.
The specialized cooling systems, the power consumption. It's like powering a small town. Software updates. Replacing components.
Always outdated.
It never ends.
And those cooling systems
Oh, man.
can be a real nightmare.
They can.
It's not just the repairs.
Yeah.
It's the downtime. The disruption to research.
Processing tasks.
Everything.
So evidence point number 2.
Got it.
Highlight those ongoing costs.
The escalating maintenance costs.
Yes.
Use Cheyenne's cooling system problems.
Exactly.
Make your point.
Show that those costs
Can quickly outweigh.
a remaining value.
Okay, so we've got
Yeah.
depreciation, maintenance costs.
What's next?
What's the last piece?
The limited resale market.
Right.
Even if you find a buyer,
Uh-huh.
you're not going to get much back.
Remember the Cheyenne auction?
$2,500.
It's crazy how little these things are worth
It is.
in the market.
So evidence point number 3.
Okay.
Emphasize that there's no real secondary market.
Even for machines like Cheyenne.
They just don't hold their value.
So to build a good argument,
Yep.
you need to weave those 3 things together.
Depreciation, maintenance, and resale value.
It's all about painting the picture
Uh-huh.
of an asset that loses value
And becomes a burden.
financially.
Exactly.
And analogies can really help.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like comparing it to
Like a car
an old sports car.
versus a brand new SUV.
Right. You wouldn't pay the same taxes on those.
Makes sense.
It helps people
But
understand.
who might not know much about supercomputers? Exactly.
So use analogies.
Yes.
Use examples.
Like Cheyenne.
And you can create a narrative that the assessor will understand.
Wow, this has been
And,
eye-opening deep dive.
from market booms to auction blocks,
All to understand.
the economics of supercomputers.
And how they impact.
Property tax, I think the big takeaway.
Is that
Even with cutting-edge technology, economic realities matter.
they do.
And understanding those realities
Especially with supercomputers
can save you a lot of money.
in the long run.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been fun.
We hope you found it informative.
And maybe a little empowering.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
Happy diving, everyone.
See you next time.